Okay, I'm ready.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Cosmic Owl Astrology Podcast. I'm Louise Eddington, and before I introduce my today's guest, I just want to quickly remind everybody that my newly redesigned Spiral Codex mentorship membership community is open this week. I'm closing registration the day the sun goes into Sagittarius because that's my birthday month and I want to have that month to me. But anyway, I'm also doing a 10K run on Thanksgiving, November the 27th. So if you donate or sponsor me for my run for a minimum of $50, you can get 25% off the membership. It's a really good deal. So anyway, my friend Dabney, tell everybody about yourself quickly.
I am an evolutionary astrologer. I have a YouTube channel too where I've hosted Louise. It's called Lawless Astrology. And yeah, I teach classes. I do readings. I don't have any available right now, but you can always email me to get on the waiting list. And yeah, I am spicy with the politics like Miss
Um,
Louise. So
and we're getting spicier. And we just spent 3 days together up in Park City at the Oprah retreat, and we have pretty much the same ascendant, right? So we
yes.
are probably going to talk a little bit about the galactic center and about all these things converging actually in December, because there's so much happening in the skies, right? So Daphne, where we're going to start, it's just like crazy.
Let's start with now because
Hmm.
there's a lot of Scorpio up
Oh
in this
yes.
now.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a Scorpio new moon. And with that Scorpio new moon, we're getting Venus in Scorpio. We've got Mercury right next to the sun, retrograde,
Kazemi.
right on top of the sun. So it's super powerful
16 minutes apart. I
in
know.
Scorpio.
Hmm.
And
Opposing
so
Uranus.
opposing Uranus, there's a lot going on, and we're already witnessing it. So, like
Hmm.
everything that we're seeing in the collective with the Epstein files,
Mm.
this is a big moment. And I woke up this morning thinking about Virginia Giuffre,
Mm.
and I was thinking what a powerful woman this is. And
I
I
just
wish
finished listening to her book, so
you did. Oh, so then you have real context. And
oh.
I was just thinking how, this woman is from beyond the grave having such a huge influence
Hmm.
for women everywhere.
She
It's
is.
not just about the girls that were trafficked. This is about I loved this. Thomas Massey, who's a Republican kind of
Hmm.
who just, Trump pushed him too far. He's calling it the Epstein class, meaning like the elite, the Epstein class. Like
Ooh,
I
I
love
like that. Yeah, because
yeah.
it is. It involves all of them. I'm not going to kind of, name names on my channel live because, people get threatened and things over this.
Yes.
But there's a prime minister or an ex-prime minister in Israel who's said to be one of the people in her book. Um,
One
um,
really horrible story involving
oh,
him.
and obviously we see what's happened to the ex-Prince Andrew and people like that, and it's
Like a
it's
president of Harvard,
yeah,
people like Goldman Sachs, people at
all
JP.
kinds of scientists, she said. Weirdly, I was like, weird. All these like top scientists in colleges and things. It's like,
And it
ooh.
doesn't just involve our country, it involves
Mm-mm,
countries all over the world and blackmail. I mean, it's
mm-hmm,
really pretty incredible. So Scorpio rules
mm,
sexuality, like that's a big part of Scorpio. Scorpio has to have these deaths to go through a rebirth. So that's a
mm-hmm.
big scorpionic signature. And Scorpio is pretty dramatic, you know,
It
with
is. I mean, when Jupiter was last going through Scorpio, that's when the resurgence of the Me Too movement came up. So, and at the moment, we've got such powerful Scorpio as we head into this new moon as we record this. I said for ages that, oh, names are going to come out or the files or something. And here we have the emails, but we're still not on the new moon yet, right? So,
Right. And I think the vote will be on the new moon. And I
Mhm.
think that that will be a tide turning, but also what we have to keep in mind is that, um, you know, the orange man at the top is also a very political creature. He is
Mhm.
really good at politics.
Oh,
And, so now he's doing this thing where he's trying to have Democrats investigated. So
yeah.
if there's an open investigation, then they can't release the files, even if they vote to release them, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
so this is also very Scorpio. It's not only secrets, but it's cover-ups.
And manipulation and power games, all that kind of thing, right? It's all of those kind of things.
Yeah.
It does have positive qualities as well, by the way. So.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have the phoenix rising. You don't have
Mhm.
the transformational change
Mm.
without this kind of burn it all to the ground
Mm.
feeling that Scorpio can. But Scorpio is very good at honing in on what they need to do. So this scorpionic energy, I would say, I did a video on my channel where I talked about Frankenstein. That
Mm.
like the Frankenstein, they created this monster and now it's coming
Mhm.
back to get them.
Yeah, and literally Epstein's chart is speaking from the grave, right? So, he's like,
Is he a Scorpio? I feel like he would be.
no, no, but I can't remember what he is, in fact. That's weird. I could get it up quickly while we talk, but also there's this asteroid Epstein that's in play right now at the moment, and it keeps showing up in all of the things. I like all my extras, like the centaurs and things. There's one centaur called Centaur Nessus, and the story of Nessus is literally about poisons and toxins and things like that, and poisonous. And Nessus, Melanie Reinhardt said it's the buck stops here because it's like we had enough of these poisonous and toxic things and abuses of power. And asteroid Epstein is literally conjunct Nessus right now in Pisces and conjunct the North Node. It's and aspecting certain people's
Yeah, and the
charts.
Uranus with this new moon is, I think, Uranus you could never predict, right?
No.
But
Hmm.
I believe that for the new moon in the US chart, it's in the sixth house. So it's
Hmm.
kind of like the people pushing back. And
Hmm.
so I do think they're coming to a point where even the Republicans are recognizing that it's not in their best interest any longer.
Exactly.
And once that happens, I mean, I can't believe they haven't done it sooner, frankly. But then if you look at all this cosmic timing,
Hmm.
all in right timing.
I mean,
Um,
he's very good at spinning, and and kind of spinning this. People have been taken in, hoodwinked, like he's very good at that kind of stuff. So,
well, and I've had my channel for a year and a half now.
mhm.
And I do political stuff because it's
Mm,
something that interests me my whole life. And I'm kind
me
of
too.
a justice warrior. You and I both with our, strong Sag energy, we can't help it.
Hmm.
And um, I got a comment on one of my videos yesterday from one of his voters that was saying, "Oh, he's just gone too far. I see
Wow.
what everything is, and this Epstein thing has just been a bridge too far, and I can't
Whoa.
continue now." Now, like you, I'm sure get comments all the time from
Mm,
people like nasty comments telling me where to go. This was the very first time that I had one of his
mm.
voters.
I should check my held comments because his name is it doesn't the comments don't get published automatically. So because there's tweets, I refuse to call it the new
Of
name,
course not.
but anyway, and of people saying no, he's just gone too far. This is too much. This is everything, and Oh, by the way, Epstein is zero Aquarius Sun, which we also know is a very hot degree. And, we've got this series of new moons as well, starting with this Scorpio new moon. Now, it's no big deal, really, that they're all at 28 degrees, because that happens at most winters where we get a series of new and full moons at the same degrees. It's just the way the cycles work. But we've got an Aquarius new moon that's on the US moon in February. So
Well, and
that's the
Pluto is conjuncting Epstein's sun, it sounds like.
it is. Yeah. Do you
So,
want to
and
have
it
do you want to
can
have a
be,
quick look at his chart?
I
It's
absolutely, I've never looked at his chart.
it's
So,
only we don't have a birth time, so it's a solar sun sign chart. But he's also got this is Centaur Pholus, which is kind of cause and effect asteroid, inventory of past actions. So Pluto's kind of bringing all that out. It's like there's loads you could say, but no need really. It's kind of just like all coming out. It's
wow.
yeah, and I talked about Centaur Nessus and asteroid Epstein. They're both on his um, Venus Mars conjunction. So,
And I know Virginia Giuffre's got a lot of Leo energy, so I wonder if
mm,
that is on
I,
her
sh-
on his
I
south node.
I
So,
should get her chart up at some point, but it's almost like too much to look at chart wise right now, right? So,
I ended up picking some cards
mm,
because
good
sometimes,
idea.
yeah, sometimes
Mm,
it's like there is there is a cosmic convergence right now
mhm,
with this Scorpio new moon and the Uranus opposition. And then, we can't ignore the fact that Neptune and Saturn are back into Pisces for the
mm,
very final cleanup, that final Pisces piece, which has to do with really coming to recognize that what I equated it to was when you're in a really deep dream, like,
mhm,
and you're just waking up and you're trying to remember it, but like
mm,
reality, like, the cat needs to be fed, like
mhm.
needs to be made, but like you're kind of wanting to like understand the dream.
Yeah.
Me is Pisces at 29 degrees. And
Mm,
so it's like reality is calling, and reality is next year. And so right now it's like this time to like reflect on what's been going on and like the deep um delusions that
mhm.
so many people have fallen into. And even we've fallen into delusions in
Oh,
our own lives. Like, I don't know about you, but I really actually thought like Mueller was going to do something. And like, I
oh,
actually
really?
thought like when, Biden won that like after January 6th, no one would ever, like, I thought we were finally done, you
Hmm.
know?
We've all been deluded. I mean, and even in the bigger collective, we've kind of been deluded, thinking that the old systems were gonna that they worked. I don't know about you, but client after client, and in my own personal life, we're finding out about patterns of abuse in family patterns, or recognizing them, I should say, seeing them like coming out of that dream, as you say, and historically, we're thinking, oh, that probably went back generations, as we're in such a time of shift and of revealing of old traumas and patterns and oh
Yeah. I spent
yeah.
a lifetime thinking my mother was one way.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole process has helped me see that that was all like a delusion. So,
Me
like
too.
in the personal, I share that because to show like it's not just the collective, it's like what's in here becomes the
Mm-hmm.
collective.
Yeah.
If you can't look yourself in the mirror and take an honest account, then you project.
Yeah.
And that's where we get this, people projecting about Hillary and Podesta when it may have been, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I won't say their names, but
No, no, I agree. But it also, there's certain rumors that could be true about about Bill, well, and we know
Oh,
you know what he did when he was in office.
well,
So,
and that's part
you
of
know.
my delusion is like that birthday book to me. This might be an unpopular opinion, but like what business, frankly, did she have running for president when at the
Mhm.
same time that like he's like, you know,
Yeah,
making wink, wink, nod, nod jokes with Epstein?
I know.
Like
Yeah.
that to me is like, what are you doing? Like,
Hmm.
Monica Lewinsky, that was one thing, but
Hmm.
this is not the same.
No, no,
And
this
so,
is
and
not.
that's where they say, well, they would have released the files. I don't know that they would have. They didn't release the files. And people always say, oh, I had people coming on my channel like crazy saying, well, they couldn't release the files because of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. I'm like, there were things they could have done. This is
No, there were.
they
Yeah.
could have subpoenaed these emails from the estate. That had
Hmm.
nothing to, you know what I mean? Is not true. So we have to look at the fact that there is this Epstein class, meaning all these people, billionaires,
All of them. Yeah.
chief scientists, like they are all covering for each other because they're terrified.
And the women that uphold those systems too, not just the men even. It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
because that's kind of the story in my family of the women really upholding this, these
Well, and
cycles.
I
Yeah.
won't say her name, but the right wing podcaster with the red behind her, you know,
Hmm.
saying like, oh, well, what wasn't really young children, you
Oh,
know, it's disgusting.
I
Yeah.
know
What a
it
foul,
is.
foul
But
thing.
also, I guess you can look at it if you come from a trying to be a little bit forgiving. It's what we were raised with. It's what we've been told over and over and over and over again. So if you're willing, would you like to look at this? I know we'll do separate videos on this Sagittarius new
No,
moon,
I love it. Yeah, let's
but
dig into it.
since it's on our ascendant and on the galactic center, and I've been watching Stefan Burns and all the things about this comet Atlas, the 3I Atlas. There's two comet atlases, by the way. One of them is breaking up. Apparently, they are named after the observatory that kind of named them or something. So anyway, so don't get confused about the two, or go and watch Stefan Burns' latest video about it. So this Sagittarius new moon is on December the 19th, which is the day that this 3I Atlas is closest to Earth. It's on the galactic center, so I added the galactic center here too. And did you know 3I Atlas was first identified in the constellation Sagittarius, which is the galactic center, and and the final flyby as Atlas leaves our solar system is right by Jupiter, which is the ruler of Sagittarius. You cannot make this stuff up. Look at all of this, honestly.
That's, yeah, very big Sagittarius energy, very powerful.
And
Very.
well, as we know, Sagittarius is forward thinking. It seeks truth. It's always trying to find out what's true. Yes, of course, shadows Sagittarius can be dogmatic, and things like that. But um, in this cycle of how everything's building, I kind of see that this is more truths being revealed. And you say stuff now because you've been looking into the galactic center a bit as well now as well, haven't you? So
Yeah, that it actually is. It has to do with the power and of our galaxy. Like it's kind of this
mhm.
power point. And what came to me just now when you were talking was right now, I do believe is the beginning of the end.
Mhm.
I don't think that like all of a sudden this is gonna like be over tomorrow. I
Mhm.
think we've got several months. But this new moon in Sagittarius to me is an accelerant.
Oh,
Like
hugely.
there's going to be massive cover-ups. I do think they're going to do the thing. I think they're going to vote for it, but then they're going to do the thing. Well, it can't be released until after our full investigation of the Democrats.
Hmm.
They're involved. Like, so they're going to play games. There's going to be cover-up. There's going to be secrecy. But like this to all that Sagittarius is a fire sign. It's
Hmm.
fast moving and it's on a mission. It's like it's the centaur with the arrow. It's really the
Hmm.
arrow is the and it's very single pointed. It's got
Yeah.
like, and this to me is like an accelerant.
And, to go back to the galactic center and saying that this comet, 3I, came literally pretty much from the galactic center. Stefan Burns also said it's kind of starting to break up a little bit, not break up, but things are breaking off. And because of where it comes from, this is stuff that we have not had in our solar system before. And Philip Sedgwick has always said that the galactic center is, he calls it a cosmic defragger. It kind of like empties out the hard drive and brings in this new information. So, what is this being, this body, 3I Atlas? No, I don't think it's an alien ship at all. But, but it's bringing something in, because I think the cosmos is conscious, you know,
A hundred.
in yeah. So it's bringing in new consciousness, right? New truth, new information, new whatever. And then look at all of this. This is asteroid Hecate, by the way, which you may not use because she is kind of the triple moon goddess at crossroads. She's right there on this new moon. This is Juno, which is our sacred contracts. Venus is right there, right under the beams of the sun. you know she's heading towards her superior conjunction, actually at 16 Capricorn, where Vesta is now, which is the state in many ways. Mercury is out of the retrograde shadow by that new moon, saying let's I think that people are still going to, even though yes, I agree, they're going to play games, but I think this much Sagittarius is just going to keep fighting for the truth to come out,
I picked a card for this one and I got
Mm-hmm.
participation. And I think that this has to do with the coming back together of people. Like
Mm,
this is a bunch of hands coming into the center.
mm,
And just the fact like that if there was one person that commented on my video after like I would say dozens of hateful comments that I've had
oh,
over the last year and
I've
a half.
I've 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 hidden so many people from my channel because of that.
This was the first time. So
Mm,
if there's one, then there's more. Do you know
mm-hmm,
what I mean? And like that's like it's the things that we haven't wanted to see. I
mm-hmm,
haven't wanted to see. I for a long time I've not wanted to see that this is what my country was really about.
mm.
But
Well,
now we're being forced to see
and
it.
the world as well, really.
Well, they're right, like right.
My
So
own country, where I was born, at least, because I'm a dual national now. We always called him Randy Andy. I don't know if you've heard that expression. When I was growing up, we all called him Randy Andy. We thought it was funny.
right.
Oh,
Now when and I think every woman watching this has so many stories. And I think that was the really disheartening thing about Me Too was we all came out and we were like, "Oh my God, right?" Like we've
mm,
all got these stories. And then the backlash against it with like, you know, uh Kavanaugh being
mm.
put
With
into
Blasey Ford.
right, right. Like
The,
saying, coming out and saying, like, oh, well, it's a really precarious time to be a boy in this country,
oh,
like, and then, taking away our right to choose and all the things that are happening under this administration, like in the military, and I mean, countless examples of rights being taken away. And so, yeah, it's pretty intense right now.
and look at this, where Mercury is as well, though, on this new moon, square the nodes. I mean, as a new evolutionary astrologer, I'm sure you have something to say about that, because I always, whenever a planet squares the nodes by transit, my eyes open wide and my ears pop
My
up.
my
Right?
glasses. What planet is squaring the nodes? Is it
Mercury is at almost 11. So they're less than, they're just a degree apart.
Yeah.
Mercury in Sag is square the
Yeah,
nodes, and Mercury, of course, is the guide or ruler for the South Node.
right.
Hmm.
In Sagittarius, it's a truth telling, and that was
Hmm.
like we haven't. Everybody knows it, but no one can say it.
Yeah.
And you know, I worked in Silicon Valley for 20 years and I
Hmm.
rose to a pretty prominent position. And to see who rises to these positions and how this all works. And it was really eye-opening to see the level of cruelty and corruption and
Hmm.
how the inner workings of this stuff. I know, Louise, you like the Nerd Reich too. I think you
Hmm.
them. And you can kind of see that where, when someone gets too much money and too much power, it really messes with their brains.
It seems to anyway, or maybe it's all the ketamine as well that they ingested. It's because they've got all that. I don't know. Oh, it's going to change though, and I don't think this new moon is like suddenly the next day. It's
No,
all no by it. We've still got Uranus to station direct and move back into Gemini. Neptune and Saturn have still got to move back into Aries. But honestly, I really think it's happening faster and faster. And this, with that comet there as well, and this new kind of knowledge and new information coming to light, and Mercury square the nodes, I would not be surprised with this new moon if this is when the files get released in some way.
yeah, and so I picked another card, which is Harmony. It's
Mm,
the equivalent of the Ten of Cups. I have picked this card so many times in the past few couple weeks.
I'm going to stop the share so they can see your card. Yeah,
Yeah,
go
hold on.
on.
So
Mhm.
this card to me is the Ten of Cups always was the happily ever after card.
Mm,
And so this to me, and I think if anybody's watching this, they must like Sagittarius energy and they must like Jupiter energy, since you and I both have a lot of that. Um,
we are
it's
the best, aren't we?
yeah,
Yeah.
well, only Sagittarius can say that. I'm actually not a Sagittarius, but I have Sag rising and North Node. So, but the truth is, we're here to tell you to keep the faith. I think
Hmm.
that that's what that card is keep the faith. And then I
Yeah.
asked about, well, is this going to be that February time frame where
Mm,
it's all going to kind of crumble with the
mm,
Saturn Neptune? And I got patience. So I
mm.
think we might be looking at more like spring, more like when the Uranus is squaring his ascendant.
Oh, I kind of think yes for that. Yes, but that doesn't mean things won't be released along the way.
No,
So,
this is
yeah.
I do
Hmm.
believe the momentum is that of
Hmm.
the beginning of the end,
Yeah.
and all of the sort of nightmares that we can
Mm,
conjure in our head. I keep getting that harmony card, which to me is like a fresh
mm.
start. It's keep the faith. So,
So I pulled one card when I was
all right,
just
let's
started.
hear it.
So I'm into the Witch Oracle deck at the moment by Angie Sullins, but this is the feet. They're a bit shiny, which is hard.
Oh
So
yeah, I see it now. The Phoenix.
but I'm going to pull another one for, kind of when will it be over? Because I want to remind people that this is, again, to go to that Epstein elite class, it's about more than just that one person at the realm,
And will these people go to jail? No, they won't.
Probably not. No.
But will there be
I
humiliation?
hope I hope they all go to Mars.
That's right. The next comet leaving, they can
Mhm.
hop on.
Oh, they can go on Elon's first trip to Mars. So, oh well, to go to your patients, I just got the Siren of Surrender.
Okay. Yeah.
Pretty much the same message, I think.
Yeah.
Just
Right
do
timing, I have to believe.
do your own kind of personal kind of healing and self-care, lots of self-care, because it's a lot, this energy. Oh my god, it's like
Drink water, lots of water.
yes, lots of water, although I'm on the coffee still at the minute, but but I'm on an extended fast, so I might be a little bit hyper today. I'm trying to go till tomorrow morning. I started at 12:30 yesterday, but anyway, because that's really good for you as well. But anyway, so what else? I thought of something else, but you've probably got other things to say as well about the astrology coming up. I mean, it's just everything. Pluto going out of bounds. I know you had Rosie Finn on. I'm trying to get her on as well. She just doesn't seem to be seeing my email, but I'm going to try again. So
Okay. Well, and if
yeah,
I happen to talk to her, I'll let her know
please
that
do.
you would
Yeah.
like to talk to her because her book is amazing. I've started reading
Hmm.
that. That's the latest one that I've cracked open, and I think, yeah, Pluto going out of bounds has historically brought revolution. I mean, one of the things
Hmm.
that we have to understand about astrology is it's cyclical, and
Hmm.
um, I did a video about how this time mirrors, the outer planets. Like you can just take in isolation, okay, the Civil War happened when, Neptune was in Aries, or, you know,
Yeah.
like you can take things in isolation, but when you take them together, one
Mm.
of the things that I saw with these same outer planet configuration was the time of Henry VIII. And
Mm.
and how he is very much a figure that mirrors our
Oh,
current
oh,
person, like incredibly toxically narcissistic, just everyone around him was like said he smelled bad, you
oh,
know,
yeah. Oh,
like similar kind of like so allegedly. But um one of the things that I'll say is that he was a giant change maker who
he
changed
was.
course of history. He
Mhm.
unseated the power of the Catholic Church at that
And
time, which
and
had become incredibly corrupt. And so then you kind of had this like Protestant versus Catholic, but
mm-hmm.
everyone, the Martin Luther and the theses, that was like kind of the beginning, but he was the accelerant on that one. Like if you don't
He
know anything,
was.
eighth, wow, you need to check that out.
Well,
Um,
he literally founded the Church of England so he could divorce a wife and marry another one. So
and
yeah.
yeah, and then he ended up cutting off her head and cut off
Mm.
another one's head. So lots of interesting things about this character, this very toxic,
Mm.
narcissistic character who actually, though, changed the course of history. And,
Mm.
for better or for worse, we are again living in a time where these outer planets mirror this time of great change that then leads to, a completely reshuffling of the power
Mm.
structures within the world. And,
Isn't
his
it ironic, though, that we actually have a new pope who is a reformer?
right.
He's been meeting with trans activists and, prominent gay couples. He's breaking up Opus Dei. So he's literally kind of trying to reform the Catholic Church from the inside. It's like,
I mean, the reality is that the current outer planet transits with Pluto and Aquarius, especially,
mm-hmm,
um, they mirror that destruction
mm,
of the corruption that happens when Pluto's in Capricorn. And like
yeah,
when, Pluto in Sagittarius and then Pluto in Capricorn, like Pluto and Scorpio, like the kind of the Pluto cycle,
mm-hmm,
when it comes to Pluto and Aquarius, it's sort of like, oh, it's gone too far.
yeah,
And so if it has not been in right integrity,
mm-hmm,
it dissolves, and it's a 20-year cycle, but that is when you did have the French Revolution. That
exactly.
is when you had, also going back to Henry VIII's time, one of the things that we don't talk about because we're a little more Eurocentric, but the Spanish were able to conquer a lot of, the Latin American
Mm-hmm.
kingdoms and take over territory because there was a lot of corruption within
Oh,
uh,
so
those
corrupt.
kingdoms as well, and leaders.
Yeah. I hadn't looked back at Henry VIII. I'm going to, because obviously I know a lot about Henry VIII. I'm coming from, we learned all about that when I was growing up. But also, this cycle is even bigger than that one, I think, because the last time Saturn and Neptune met at zero Aries, which is a world point, was 4,300 and something. I can't remember, BCE. I cannot remember the exact date. And then
Yeah.
we've got all these other things that are real kind of turning of the ages. And I do think it matters looking at the collective energy, all these newly discovered planets. I know a lot of astrologers go, oh, Sedna, she has no impact. Well, I wouldn't necessarily look at Sedna in a personal chart reading when I do that for somebody, unless they ask me to. But I think there's a reason they've come into our consciousness. And she was last at the beginning of Gemini, where she is now, at the end of the great ice ages, when literally humans went from being hunter gatherers to kind of creating communities and farms. And
Right, and we don't know what's coming. I mean, that's
we
the
do not.
reality, is we can project. AI is a game changer.
Hmm.
I also think it can be very
Oh, it
destructive.
could both.
And
Yes.
right. And so,
Yeah.
we don't know where we're going, but I know a lot of
Hmm.
I just saw a video today about a lot of people who are part of the MAGA movement are moving over to Bernie Sanders,
Hmm.
which is interesting because I think
It's
had
kind of funny because I was a national delegate for Bernie in 2016, and a lot of my fellow Burners went to MAGA after that election.
amazing. I mean, like, to me, that's fascinating because I've always been
Hmm.
a big Bernie supporter, and it's really fascinating to me that people could rationalize that
Oh,
change, but they really wanted disruption.
hmm,
First, they just didn't
exactly.
want the status quo. They didn't
Yeah.
necessarily want what was being offered, so they didn't hear what was
E-
really on offer.
exactly. And we've got that same thing happening here in Utah right now. We've actually had a judge uh, rule on boundaries in the state, and that means that we had a big, a proposition to redraw the boundaries, and she ruled in that favor. So we now have one congressional seat that will go Democrat. But straight away, there's this old school elite Dem with lots of money and powerful moneyed backers who got ahead of the game, and he's in there first trying to get elected for that seat. And we're all going, oh, no, no, no. We want a Mamdani. We want a Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, I think
Hmm.
that lessons need to be learned. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
really lessons need to be. What is your interpretation of that? The sun moon, the new moon on the galactic center in Sag.
Oh, well, I think, well, it's many in many ways. I think that could be when more of this truth comes out. But I also think people are gonna like wake up more because it's square to Neptune and it's making a quincunx to Uranus. People are really gonna wake up. It's kind of funny because I quoted Frederick on the video I did with Kathy because he said about Dane Rudhyar saying Uranus was the mind of God. I think he didn't exactly say that, but I've been kind of reading what he said. And he said, it's kind of like Uranus wakes you up, and then Neptune, you kind of step into this higher kind of spiritual awareness if you are kind of doing the work and on the path. And of course, this new moon is going to be square Neptune and quincunx Uranus. I think more and more people are just going to wake up, smell the coffee, see the truth of everything, really, or if there is such a thing, but in their own lives, what they've believed out there, because Sagittarius is also about belief, and Pisces is. I think people are going to realize what they believed to be true. It was just a big lie,
Yeah,
basically.
in our own lives, because I know most people watching this are probably going to be tuning in for our spicy political takes, but
Hmm.
I also think that there is that piece in our own lives where then what do you do with that? That's the
Mm.
Sagittarian piece, is like Sagittarius is both truth and
Hmm.
Sagittarius is, it's not delusion in the Neptune sense, but it's
No,
like you just believe something so fervently that sometimes you can't see the truth,
it's
right?
it's that dogma thing. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
And so when you're confronted with your own truth in your own life about whatever
Mm.
that may be, like your own beliefs around religion, or how you have to behave within the family dynamic, or whatever
Mm.
the different thing is within your own life, what do you do with that energy?
Mm.
And so I think that's really interesting that you bring up that it's got, what did you say, it was a square to Neptune or
Yeah, yeah. It's the new moon is by 1 degree square to Neptune in Pisces. Yeah, because the new moon is at 28 degrees Sag, and Neptune, I'm just getting the chart up again, is at 29 Pisces. So, that's more than tight enough. So I could draw my lines. I love to draw
and
lines.
in a weird way that can be a little bit of a um
I'm not going to say it's not going to be overwhelming. It's going to be,
yeah, it could be a crisis of faith. Let's put it
oh,
that way. Like
absolutely. Yeah.
like suddenly what you believed you see in a different light, and so then it
Hmm.
becomes, what do I believe?
Mm,
That's like doubt is sowed like in your own ability to like, how did I see things that way?
I know.
And so, and again, this isn't just about the politics, this can be in your
Oh,
own
no.
life. And so what's the higher, because I know you do evolutionary astrology too. What I always try to look at is, what is the higher purpose? Like
Mm,
how do you take that? And it's not about falling into the morass of victimhood, like, how, oh, what was me? How did I
yeah.
believe that? It's actually about taking an honest account.
Hmm.
And with all this Sagittarius, it's really about having faith and moving forward.
It
And
is. Yeah. And just kind of, and really, I would say the only thing is that you can only have real faith in your own ability to move forward, not in anything out there right now. I mean, look at this as well on the new moon. Jupiter Jupiter is Sagittarius guide or ruler. I hate the word ruler, but Jupiter is retrograde, but it's exactly square Chiron in Aries. I've been talking for a long time is that the only thing we can do really with all of this is do our own um, creating healing from the inside out, do our own work, kind of come into our wholeness as much as we can, kind of look at where we were misled, misguided, delusion, whatever, yeah, and some of it may have been, purpose or had a purpose in your life, but also, you know, we're just human, we've grown up in a very toxic culture. So, it is a crisis of faith, but you can come into yourself and learn who you are at your essence and move forward from that place. Does that make sense?
I think it's beautiful. And I think that this is if this is right around the the solstice.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, the holiday where people will have time off.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's going to be kind of the darkness and the quiet to reflect. So I think that that's
Mm-hmm.
what this is asking on a personal level, is that reflection, not to be beating yourself up
Yeah.
or to fall into depression, which I think, like, when
Mm,
people kind of see things, I can say from my own example, like, there's been a sense of like, wow, how did that happen? And how did I get here?
mm.
And there's regret. And
Oh, yeah. And that's that end Pisces energy, right? As you said, it's like, that can be really depressive, especially with Saturn already at its station direct degree right now. It can be like, how could I not have seen this before? You know, or how
and
could
so
I, or how could I have not done that? How could I have done that? Because we've all done stuff.
right. Yeah. And so I think, I'm going to do a little plug if you don't mind. I have a
Oh.
Chiron. It's a
Mhm,
pre-recorded Chiron course
mhm,
that I can send Louise the link for. But I think that Chiron squaring Jupiter, around this exact same time, I
mm,
think that's all we can do. Like you said, do our own work.
mhm.
And
And don't look for a savior.
rewrite your story. Like,
Yeah.
the past is the past, and now we have to
Mhm,
move forward into the future. And the future is really different.
mhm,
And change is hard, but I think, like, we are really in the thick of like facing the demons right now before we can kind of then move forward in a healthier
mm.
way.
And try and support those who are less able to kind of step into that place of optimism, which is very Sagittarius. You know, I keep doing these videos and having people like you on, Dabney, because I want people to know we are going to be better than okay, even though it might not seem like it at the moment. I have absolute faith that we are.
And I mean, how, like, so wait, I'm gonna pull it up again. The Harmony
Mm,
cups. I don't know why I keep picking it, but it's a message. And I'm picking it for videos. So this is the third video where I have picked cards from this Osho Zen Tarot deck.
mm,
That's been one of the cards I picked. So I think you're right. I think maybe for you and I, our message to people is to keep the faith. It's
mm.
gonna be okay. Don't succumb to that feeling of just like, apocalyptic thinking.
Yeah, yeah. I, I heard somebody the other day, they said, does that mean the Earth's going to end? Oh, good. And I was like, no,
We don't want the, yeah.
it's not. Well, A, the Earth's not going to end. We're in danger of killing humans off because of how we are with the Earth, which goes back to plug for my book series. By the way, I'll be teaching for Kepler College on December the 13th, and my focus is going to be on the collective series and climate change because it's huge right now, to be quite honest. But anyway, so there's another plug for that talk. Kepler College will be, or I'll be plugging it too. But you know, again, we've never been here before until Uranus was discovered, Raja, mind of God, or whatever you want to call it. Um, we only knew as far as Saturn. And so much is our consciousness is expanding, just as like the actual solar system is supposed to be expanding literally, and we know more and we can do things differently now because we are aware more now.
And can you
So
imagine this conversation? And this is the extinction burst that, people talk about. Like, can you
mm,
imagine we're actually have a conversation about, elite, powerful men hurting young girls?
mm,
Like what's not a secret. Like, when I was growing up, every single commercial, was some, right? Like, really what was it, Girls Gone Wild, like
oh,
like, right, like this stuff is just there permeating the culture.
oh, and
And
the casting couch, everybody knew about the casting couch, and it was right out there in our face if we look back. Cosby, the
we
cos
knew it, but there was nothing, no one cared. Like,
no,
that's the
nobody
thing.
cared.
Like, I had a client once, you know really inappropriate with me, grabbed me and kissed me. I told my boss,
Hmm.
and he basically said I was asking for it and it was my fault. And when that's what you're up against, you learn, like, that's the game. Like,
Hmm.
I need to shut my mouth about these things. Like, it's
Yeah,
not to do me any good because everybody already knows.
I've been there too. Yeah, same. Somebody grabbed my butt once, and I complained. Oh, these things happen. Just
Boys will
brush it
be
off.
boys, and
Uh,
everybody had an opportunity to do
mhm,
things differently when that Access Hollywood tape came out, but we weren't
mm.
ready.
No, we
So
won't.
will
Mm.
people be ready now? We'll see. I'm
Yeah, let's
optimistic.
hope.
Yeah, let's hope.
Oh, well, we're trying to encourage you to be ready and to
Yeah.
see more and to say we had to see all this to change it is all.
And don't
Yeah.
doom. Exactly. Don't
Hmm.
doom, and, like, keep the
Hmm.
faith, because we
Yeah,
can create a new world
we
where,
can.
and I think we are,
I
you know.
think we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dabney, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And incidentally, on December the 11th, Dabney and Celeste Brooks and I are going to do a thing where I've got this studio where we can live stream to all our YouTubes and Facebooks and things. And we're just going to do a holiday kind of fun one, aren't we? And we'll probably talk politics though, because all three of us like to talk politics. So
Yeah, maybe I need to get a cocktail dress and
I know
dress that. Like, I'll
I-
talk to you offline about it, but I agree. It should be like a
I'm going to dress up. It's in Sagittarius season. It's
I
our,
like,
yeah.
I'm so
So,
glad you promoted that. I need to start promoting that too, because that'll be really fun. So bring your fun questions for us.
yeah, yeah, do. And if it's live stream, we'll look at the comments and try and answer them live, and yeah, maybe have a cocktail too, because we're doing it early evening for us. So why not? Because that's what the thing, you've got to have fun as well. Kathy and I are always saying that as well. Just do things that bring you joy and fun. Even if you are also kind of going and protesting ICE or whatever you're doing,
Yeah.
also have some fun or do it with joy. Go out there with the smart ass signs or, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And tune into what you're being called to do. Like this is what
Hmm.
Louise and I are being called to do is,
Yeah.
to try to spread the faith, try to spread some truth and
Hmm.
but also know that like truth Sagittarius is a mutable sign. Like truth changes, and it's
It
different for
does.
different people.
Yeah. I don't know what's true.
Right?
Except that all this is coming to light and it's coming to light for a reason. So
Right. And for
I do know
entertainment
that's true.
only. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Well, so for now, peace out, everybody. I'm going to get this up and over to Dabney as well, but it's always a pleasure talking to you.
Lovely. Thank you for hosting me.